Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you may be in the world today. There is a message that Anonymous has for Vladimir Putin, and then we'll talk more about some of the hacktivist situations that are currently ongoing.
Greetings, world. We are Anonymous. We see the clouds of war wrought by a madman pushing his propaganda agenda onto a free people, and it angers us. Russian forces surrounded and invaded Ukraine, all because Vladimir Putin wants to dominate a sovereign nation and to control Ukraine's autonomy. Immediately, we hit his propaganda network Russia Today and took out many of Russia's government sites. These actions will continue. We, as activists, will not sit idle as Russian forces kill and murder innocent people trying to defend their homeland. To all of the Russian soldiers who may read or hear of this message, and to any of their family and friends who may be able to pass this message along, we strongly encourage all of you in the Russian forces to lay down your weapons and just walk away. Putin's crimes do not have to be your crimes. As bombs fall on Ukraine, together as a collective we will try our best to give valid information to the people of Russia about the crazy actions of Putin, and also try our best to help meant to help keep data channels open, and to also help obfuscate their communications from prying eyes. While some of our actions may be considered illegal in the eyes of various governments, we must also note that the US government has admitted to using cyber warfare against Russia. With no diplomatic ties to Russia, we see no reason any Western laws should be used against our actions in trying to protect and defend the people of the Ukraine, and also to help educate the people of Russia. As soon as Vlad started his war on the people of Ukraine, he started to censor Twitter and Facebook in Russia. The solution to circumvent any censorship by Russian internet providers is to use the Tor network or a virtual private network. We do understand that using a VPN or Tor in Russia to access restricted content is against the law, so you must do so at your own risk. We stand with the Ukrainian people. We stand with the Russian people who oppose the dictator Putin. We stand with all of the people in the world who crave changing this insane rock into a better place for all of us to live. We are Anonymous. We are Legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Vlad should have expected us.
Okay, so let's talk about what Anonymous has done so far.
Hi, I'm AI
So far, Anonymous has managed to take down RT, Russia Today. They have managed to hack into ROM Cosmos, which is a private agency inside of Russia. They have released several files for download. Make sure, guys, if you do start digging into those files, make sure you do so on a VM, meaning virtual machine. Try to, don't do that on your computer. In other words, build a VM and do all of your dirt on that VM. That way you can just delete it and toss it aside if, God forbid, something happens to your machine. Hey, Queen. Oh, and before I forget, in the description of this video, you will see a link to a package that you can use that will help you set up Tor on your machine. Hold on. I don't know if many of you all are familiar with Tor Onion, but Tor Onion is a method to essentially have a private link to the internet without going. You will go through your provider, but you're going to go through your provider in a secure channel. I put a link for an alternative to circumvent Russian censorship in the description of this video. It's a Tor network, this is mostly for those that may be in Russia that are stuck under censorship. Know that you're at your own risk when you do that. So, but the link is there in the description for your download if you'd like. On top of the space agency being targeted, Russia Today, several customer, I should say, internet-facing sites, there is a huge possibility that Anonymous took control of Russia's mission control for their space agency, their Space Research Institute, and is now in control of Russian satellites in space. Waiting on confirmation on that, but let's talk a little bit more about some of the details here. So, in the latest salvo from Hacktivist Anonymous, working in support of Ukraine, an anonymous linked group has defaced a website belonging to Russia's Space Research Institute and has leaked files that allegedly belong to the Russian space agency Roscosmos. I'm sifting through those files now, actually. One sec. Okay. My apologies, y'all. Hold on. All right. Anyway, okay. Hackers appear to have breached one of their subdomains on the IKI website, although there are other subdomains that continue to remain online. I'm not going to go into details of what a subdomain is, but it is a concept. It's a technology concept. And I'll just leave it at that. The compromised part of the site relates to the World Space Observatory Ultraviolet Project, a project similar to the Hubble Space Telescope and is planned for launch in 2025. Now, there is a Twitter account. If you guys are interested in keeping up with Anonymous, there is a Twitter handle I'll throw in the chat called Your Anon News. I've been following it for years. And they have been posting a lot of updates in regards to the story. So if you really want to stay up to speed with what all has been done, what actions are being performed, what hacktivist actions are being performed, that is the handle that you will want to follow. So several .ru websites became unavailable and inaccessible. And that includes their space research site. RT Today was still down the last time I checked. And the last part of the message that Anonymous released presumably references remarks made by Dmitry Rogozin, head of Roscosmos. After sanctions were announced by the U.S., Rogozin seemed to imply that the partnership between NASA and Russian agencies could come to an end, threatening the future of the International Space Station. Now, Uranon News shared a cloud-hosted zip file that claims to be a data leak from the Russian Space Agency. Vice News shout out to Vice News, has reported that the download contains a mixture of handwritten forms, PDFs, and spreadsheets, including descriptions of lunar missions. No one's going to really be able to validate the authenticity of the data. It's really going to be up to the person, looking at the data themselves. Now, this hack against Roscosmos comes just days after another anonymous linked group made an unverified claim to have disabled Russian satellite control systems. Now, this particular group that's flushed up under anonymous NB65 has also claimed to have shut down a monitoring system used by the Russian space agency, although details, of course, have not been able to be verified. Russia, of course, is denying this. They're not, they would be stupid to acknowledge it, right? Again, it's up to the individual, okay? Now, as this ground war between Russia and Ukraine continues, the cyber domain has seen a growing number of vigilante attacks, a growing number of vigilante actors that are mounting operations against Russia and its allies, with data leaks emerging as a strategic tool. Besides NB65, a hacking group known as Against the West, claiming to have breached the Rosatom nuclear energy company, a group under the name Anonymous Liberlin released 200 gigs of emails taken from Belarusian defense contractor Tetra EDR. And I know there's a lot of people sort of snickering at that. Now, hackers have compromised a website connected to the Russia Space Research Institute. Now, the Russia Space Research Institute designs and builds scientific instruments for space experiments, okay? And Russia Today has also been taken down. Pretty much any website that is owned by Russia, they've gotten in their control, they've been taking it down. Give me just a sec. All right, so I'm not even going to show you all that. I'll leave that to myself. So these files, Vogelsek told Vice, okay, Vice Motherboard is the technology version of Vice, I guess you could say. For all of the techies that like tech news, we go to Motherboard, right, to get our tech news. And Motherboard has been releasing some information from this group that's affiliated with Anonymous. They've been in an online chat with them, and they said, quote, they're using their own file sharing service where the files could be accessed only by providing a username and password. Quote, all I did was brute force the password while keeping the username as admin, as they were using a weak password. It didn't take much time for me to get the password. So somebody managed to brute force hack the root account, which is absolutely hilarious to me. But hey, root, admin, administrator, whatever. If you are managing a system, if you are the system administrator for a system and you are in control of the root account, the password should be hella long, hella complex, letters, numbers, and characters, okay, should be in that password. That tells me that they didn't even have that sort of complex password if he was able to brute force if he was able to brute force hack it. Brute force, there's a lot of combinations that are thrown at an account. And the fact that he was able to even brute force it tells me there must not be even a password policy that would have disabled the account after so many incorrect password attempts. That's another thing that could have been something to slow those hackers down. But listen, I ain't here to help the Russians, okay? I'm not here to help them. Now, one of the documents discussed and that were taken from this Roscosmos agency discusses the location of a potential landing site for lunar spacecraft on the moon's south pole. Russian authorities had already announced their South Pole sites, but there's a lot that goes on in these agencies and these space agencies that the public is just not going to be aware of. Now, Twitter users also shared a separate unverified claim on Twitter from another alleged hacking group, which suggested it had targeted a vehicle monitoring system. Seemingly in response, Roscosmos head Dmitry Rogozin denied that Russian satellite control centers had been hacked. But Anonymous is very clear in what they're saying, that they have taken control of Russian satellite control centers that control satellites in space, Russian satellites. So take that information for what the hell it is, okay? Russia's never going to be honest with us. Now, the main message from Anonymous: leave Ukraine alone or else Anonymous will fuck you up even more. This message was also posted on the websites for sites that were hacked that were also attributed to Russia. Now, Rosgozin, I know I can't say Russian words really well. Rogozin, the same guy, Dmitry, right? He announced in an Interfax report yesterday that any hacking of Russia's satellites would be a justification for war. Offlining the satellites of any country is actually a casus belli, meaning a cause for war. He further requested that British-based tech firm OneWeb administer guarantee that Roscosmos satellites are not going to be used against Russia. You took our satellites, but please don't use them against us. The CEO threatened to cancel the planned March 4 launch of 36 OneWeb satellites without compensating OneWeb if those assurances were not made. I don't think people care. I don't think anybody cares. Now, this chief is threatening to expose the identities of those responsible, but yet he's saying that nothing happened. Which one is it? Do they got control of your space satellites or no? He's saying that he will find those responsible. He will identify them, and he's going to force them to hand the data over to the Russian security services so that they could open a criminal investigation against the hackers. But if they don't have any control of your satellites, what's the concern? Now, earlier, several Telegram groups claimed that the NB65 hacker group has successfully breached their satellites, went into the innermost sanctum of their network, taking several subdomains, okay, putting several subdomains under control. And it's going to be very interesting how things are going to go over the next few weeks, right? It's going to be very interesting. Now, I have been sifting through some of this data that they collected. And again, if you are one of those that are interested in looking at this type of information, make sure that you do it in a sandboxed environment, just in case, right? There could be anything in those zip files, right? But for nosy people that may be interested, right, in seeing what all they got, I know that once you go to that Twitter handle that I put in the chat, you know, just don't download those files from that Twitter handle onto your machines. That would be absolutely stupid. And that's really, that's really all I have. The number of sites that Anonymous has targeted and taken down, from my understanding, is around 300. I also was told that they had also taken down the network linked to an industrial gas control system. And I don't know much about that except that. So a lot of things are going on. This is what you call a cyber war, right? Russia has enacted cyber wars on many different government organizations. Let's not forget about Kaspersky, okay? The Russian-made antivirus that many of you Americans installed on your machines years ago because it was the only free antivirus available in the entire world. Norton, McAfee, those particular software packages cost money, right? And Kaspersky was free, but nothing. You don't get anything for free, guys. And what's really concerning about that is that Kaspersky became the government build for government machines. So hundreds, if not thousands, of computers in our government, some at the highest levels, installed Kaspersky antivirus on their machines. And if you know computers like I know computers, they could almost take the DNA of that machine. Every single file on it was made public, or not public, was made known, I should say, to Russia. They have a huge cyber, I guess you could call it a team, but they actively hack United States government machines, machines in the EU. They're always, the election hacking that was going on. There's no secret on where that traffic is coming from. You can tell where that sort of web traffic is coming from. So it looks like in some cases, though, before I let y'all go, in one case, the Center for the Protection of Monuments government site in Russia was also hacked. Anonymous uploaded a rogue page featuring the blue and yellow of the Ukrainian flag and containing a number of defacements, including screenshots of a Linux terminal in Russia and an industrial gas control system in North Ossetia, which is a republic within Russia. And as of right now, those altered pages are still online, which means that Anonymous is still in control of them. But again, probably the most concerning for me, the one that I'm most interested in, is the satellites. How much control does Anonymous have over current Russian satellites that are in space? And not only how much control they have, I know they got root access, meaning complete control. Probably one of the first things they did was locked out the other admins, right? So they could continue to keep control over these satellites. And it could become a pretty serious piece of leverage, right? It could become a very serious piece of leverage. Back out of Ukraine, or we're going to take 10 of your satellites down. Back out of Ukraine, or we're going to release this, and this. There's a lot of those satellites, guys. The data that comes off of them are absolute top secret. We don't know what all those Russian satellites are up there doing. Russia will put satellites up in space and not even tell the world what those satellites' function is. So I'll be back later today, guys, with more on this story. I want to go catch up on as far as these 300 websites, including RT Today. Okay. They've also been affected by this. I want to go see, what the status is of them. And Wow. There's even tanks showing up online for sale, y'all. Ukraine, Anonymous is just doing all sorts of crazy shit. Russian soldiers have been offered $40,000 to give up their tanks. The notorious hacker community also claims to have collected over 1 billion in rubles. Not sure why they're saying that. Maybe they took control of some other digital assets that I don't know about yet, but y'all better keep your eyes peeled. Everybody's doing everything on the internet these days, okay? And unless you literally cut your network off from the rest of the world, the rest of the internet, you are not safe. And when you have weak passwords for your root accounts, that's one of the very first things that any administrator should have taken care of the moment that they first logged onto that server, right? That whatever it is, device, server, whatever, the very first thing, secure your administrative access. $300 websites belonging to Russian government agencies, state media outlets, banks, as well as websites of leading Belarusian banks, including belarusbank.com. Access to these sites is currently denied. I'm actually checking one of them right now. And it is not loading. I want to check and see if RT Today will load right now. RT. Curious. They do have a website. Looks like not only has RT been targeted by hackers, but RT America is now shutting down. Just like that. Just like that. Wow. All right, guys, I'm out of here. And by the way, no, these sites are not loading. They are still down. Until next time.
Greetings, world. We are anonymous. We see the clouds of war wrought by a madman pushing his propagandic agenda onto a free people, and it angers us. Russian forces surrounded and invaded Ukraine, all because Vladimir Putin wants to dominate a sovereign nation and to control Ukraine's autonomy. Immediately, we hit his propaganda network, Russia Today, and took out many of Russia's government sites. these actions will continue. We, as activists, will not sit idle as Russian forces kill and murder innocent people trying to defend their homeland. To all of the Russian soldiers who may read or hear of this message, and to any of their family and friends who may be able to pass this message along, we strongly encourage all of you in the Russian forces to lay down your weapons and just walk away. Putin's crimes do not have to be your crimes. As bombs fall on Ukraine, together as a collective we will try our best to give valid information to the people of Russia about the crazy actions of Putin, and also try our best to help the people of the Ukraine by giving them care packages. Our care packages are meant to help keep data channels open, and to also help obfuscate their communications from prying eyes. While some of our actions may be considered illegal in the eyes of various governments, we must also note that the US government has admitted to using cyber warfare against Russia. With no diplomatic ties to Russia, we see no reason any Western laws should be used against our actions in trying to protect and defend the people of the Ukraine, and also to help educate the people of Russia. As soon as Vlad started his war on the people of Ukraine, he started to censor Twitter and Facebook in Russia. The solution to circumvent any censorship by Russian internet providers is to use the Tor network, or a virtual private network. We do understand that using a VPN or Tor in Russia to access restricted content is against the law, so you must do so at your own risk. We stand with the Ukrainian people. We stand with the Russian people who oppose the dictator Putin. We stand with all of the people in the world who crave changing this insane rock into a better place for all of us to live. We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Vlad should have expected us.